Is that Sonic, or is that animal just happy to see me? Tell you what, maybe it's a bit of both, and maybe I'm happy to see it, because this is the SEGA Genesis Flashback. Now in HD, high definition. SEGA, for your boy, Majority. And you know, just when I was saying, oh, I have too many consoles, I can't get any more consoles, what do? I go out and I buy another console. But it's fitting that it would be the SEGA Genesis because, heck, that's one of my favorite consoles. And quite frankly, when you tell me that this thing now outputs in high definition, uses an HDMI cable, and plays your original games, as well as having all of these other classic games built in, let's just say you had me at games. Whoops. But let's take a look at some of them. These are just a few that are on the back of the box. There are more. Note some classics like Arrow Flash, Shokan, Shinobi, and of course the Sonic the Hedgehog titles. Where would Sega be without him? The primordial mascot. But all in all, it's really hard to turn that down, especially as a fan of the Sega. So let's open it up, see what we get. A box of goodies, that's for sure. And of course it comes with the complimentary poster, which you can find out more about by buying yourself, but it's a nice throw-in. The console itself is a miniature rendition of the Model 1 Genesis. It's got the cartridge slot, and it looks very similar with AtGames plastered right alongside SEGA Genesis and 16-bit. Very faithful. Down to the ventilator. It does feel a bit lighter, but I like the make. It knows what it is, and it doesn't have any problems with that. Here's the HDMI cable, which replaces the composite cables, and is very good for that. The power supply is a lot lighter than the original models, which is definitely appreciated. And of course it comes with the junky third-party aftermarket controllers, which is fine because the console still works with the standard controllers. I'm always a bit skeptical of these wireless ones, but they are a nice throw-in if you can get the battery pack unlocked. So you saw several of the games. These are instructions just to put the cartridges in, but this is also a list of the SEGA games that are included if you wanted a comprehensive list. It is nice to know that you get a lot of these games. You get most of the ones that are featured on collections previously, but there are some nice throw-ins there like Arrow Flash, even like all of the Shinobi games, the Master System games, all the Mortal Kombat games. You know, those are uncommon. I don't see the Mortal Kombat games on a lot of collections. And every Phantasy Star. I mean, there's just a lot to like here. So reporting live from the Sega cave, I have Lightning Force to test this console out. Lightning Force is one of the most technically stunning games on the system, and it makes for a good companion to any Sega Genesis owner's library. Here it is in action. I could almost be fooled for an actual Genesis, had it not been for the size, but it's got the LED light. It takes a minute to boot up, which I skipped through. But let's take a moment and listen to the sounds produced by Technosoft. Yeah, that's the representation I want of Lightning Force, heavy metal, badass spaceship shooter. It looks great on the screen. I did skip to some gameplay here, but you'll notice that the pixel quality is perfect, and as is the sound quality, which for a lot of these AtGames consoles is suspect. But like I said, you know, this is a visually stunning game, and it's nice to see it captured well in an emulated version. I did fail there because I was playing with one hand and recording with the other, but give me time, and I'll do fine. So I want to continue, but I also want to continue to show you other stuff from the console. I could just test every game in my collection, but I figured I'd show you some of the ones that are included on the system itself. So I'm going to pause here for a second. This is the reset button, which lets you create save states and also go back to the menu so you can see all the other games that are included on the system itself. I'm not somebody who likes to abuse save states, but it is nice to have them. So Sonic 2, that's always the go-to, right, for any SEGA Genesis owner. This is the built-in model. I want to just show you what this one looks like. You might not be able to spot the differences, but this one doesn't look like it's outputting in HD, which is unfortunate and not a great sign for all of the built-in games on the console. But you can see it runs well, and it doesn't look that bad. Haha, I get it runs well because we're playing Sonic. But, you know, it's running well for the most part. But you can tell it's not like the real deal. So I'm going to skip here to the actual cartridge, and we're going to just see how well it plays, or, you know, if there are any improvements. So I noticed that the Sega boot up sound actually sounds a little bit more crisp there, and it might be hard to spot this, but the lines aren't as jaggy in the cartridge version. So I think like the sign here is that even if you own a lot of these games that are pre-installed on the system, it's not a sign that you need to get rid of them because you can play them now. Because this is a better quality version of the game. Poor Sonic. But that's what happens in these games. You know, you go all out and then you lose your rings because that's how Sonic goes. I do want to just show this off for a minute, just so you get a feel for the overall quality of the games. And so I can show off my hedgehog moves. Oh yeah. So with that, I've really got two questions to leave you on that I was thinking about that helped me understand why I like this console so much. If you own this, do you feel like you need to own the original system? And for me as a purist, I say absolutely. Because yes, this plays well on the high definition television, but you can't plug this into a CRT TV. Which is unfortunate, and I do find that the original model does play well on the CRT. Plus, you can actually kind of tell that you are emulating games when you're playing due to like load ups, and you know, otherwise the original console loads instantaneously. So I think this is a nice companion piece, especially if you own games already. It doesn't mean you should just get rid of the old console. But my other question I have for you here is, if you have this console, my other question I have for you here is, you know, if you had the choice, would you get this or would you get the Retron? And I understand the appeal for both. I know why people like the Retron. To me, I see that system and I think of like purple-eyed people eater just in video game console form because it's so awkward. There's like 5 slots and like a Game Boy and a Game Gear extension and then like controller ports on every side. But this thing knows like what it wants to be, and it does well at doing it. And it even feels very similar to the original console, even down to the power supply. So I'm more of a fan of AtGames SEGA Genesis Flashback. What is it with these wordy names? I struggle with these, but I do like this system, and it suits my needs. It knows what it wants to be. It's a console that does Genesis games, and that's all I really wanted. Is something to play my Genesis games and not feel like I always have to play on the CRT. So next up, I guess I need to get a Nomad, but for the time being, I'm real happy with these two. I think they go well hand in hand. Don't you agree, Segas? In any case, that's it for me. I'm going back to the Sega cave. See you next time, and keep enjoying the classics. I know I will.